So we're going to do things a little differently today, where Glenn's actually going to be interviewed for the first time rather than him doing all the interviewing. So welcome, Glenn.
Thank you,
How
Ilyse.
are you feeling about today?
I'm feeling pretty good about today.
Yeah.
I reckon today's going to be a great day.
Yeah? Time for a haircut later this week?
I hope not. I think I'm looking absolutely fabulous. Look very Bradley Cooper, I would have thought.
That's a bit cool. But
Yeah, well,
anyway,
I'm a very attractive man.
I do have to say it does look better when you first got to Darwin where you had no hair. And that's what we're here to talk about, is actually 10 years in real estate with Raine Horne Darwin.
If it makes you feel any better, I still do have a patch of no hair. It's right up here.
Okay, so you celebrated 10 years last Saturday.
Yes.
Yep, so 10 years in the territory. What can you tell us, what you've seen, what you've noticed? Obviously you come from Perth, very different.
Yep. Yeah, probably. I mean, the last 10 years in the territory, there hasn't been a massive change, I suppose, in relation to from a real estate perspective and from a perspective of looking at the town itself. There hasn't been a huge change. Probably been a big change since I first came up, before I started the job here about 12, 13 years ago. It was a lot rougher and tougher, but we're a bit cosmopolitan now. So, yeah.
There's a lot more cafes.
There is, a lot more cafes. My mum always comments every time that she comes up here that you know, she is always surprised about how well people dress, and you know, she said there's no difference between, you could walk down St George's Terrace in Perth or you could be walking down Mitchell Street and people are still dressed well. So, you know, she's always impressed by that despite the weather. So.
And how did you cope coming from Perth with Darwin build up, wet season, dry season?
No problem really coming up from Perth, because Perth's hot as well. The biggest change is the amount of humidity that's in the air. So that's a big one. But I've now learned to siphon the air out of the water. So it's pretty much like you know, swimming and dragging some out of the filter pipe as you're going through. But no, that's the biggest change, is the humidity, and certainly during the build up, just having that situation where it doesn't matter what you do. If you do one little thing, you're sweating. So
Okay.
that's a big difference.
And how does that go, obviously doing opens and stuff on the weekends?
Probably the most challenging thing, you get used to sweating. That's you know, when you're during the build up. But the most challenging thing is when you're actually jumping in and out of your car during monsoons, and you'll jump out because the water will deluge down so quickly that sometimes you're jumping out of your car and you've got 6 inches of water flowing down the side of the road, and basically your pants are wet up to your calves. So that's an interesting time.
And I think people from down south don't understand rain in Darwin compared to rain down south.
Yeah, it was interesting the other day. I was looking and they were anticipating having 42 centimetres of rain in 42 mil of rain in Sydney, I think it was, and they were saying that was the monthly average rainfall for Sydney, and I was looking at the same time, and we just had 47 mils worth of rain that day. And I was looking, going, gee, we haven't had a really wet day yet this year. So yeah, you don't fully appreciate, and that 47 mils fell in around about 3 hours.
Yeah.
So you don't really appreciate how hard it comes down when it comes down. But I think there was a day back around about 4 years ago, off the back of 5 years ago, off the back of Cyclone Carlos, may have even been longer. But we had almost a metre of rain in 1.5 days. So.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
And how many cyclones have you been through since you've been here?
Been through 2 that have actually hit Darwin. We've had about 6 warnings, but they've been downgraded to lows by the time that they got to us. But yeah, just the 2, Marcus and Carlos. So 2 blokes came around.
Okay. You've also done 30 years in real estate at the same time. So you would have seen a lot of changes between, obviously, when you started when you were 18 to now. What's been one of your favourite memories in real estate?
There are so many. But probably my favourite memory in real estate is my ability to be able to pick trends. You know, I'm extremely good at them. I remember remember a guy coming in to see me when I was around about 2-3 years into running an office, and came in and told me about how online marketing was going to be the way of the future, and you'd be going onto the internet and you would actually be searching properties, and that would be the way that you would find it. I actually threw him out of the office because I thought he was an absolute freaking lunatic. There was no way that that was going to occur. So as you can see, I'm on the ball. I know exactly where trends are coming from, and that ability to be able to recognise them has held me in really good stead.
In saying that, this office here is obviously quite forward thinking with technology and virtual assistants and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we have the interwebs now.
We do, and
Yep.
you face page.
I face page, yeah. I personally love MySpace. That's my favourite one.
On trend, good. Like it. Adapting to those sorts of changes from coming, I suppose, from an old school perspective.
Yep.
You've obviously adapted to those sorts of things and embraced them and seen the benefits of them.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, one of the biggest changes that I've seen in relation to personally as a real estate salesperson is the databasing opportunities. You know, I think I've got a copy of my old database sitting up there, which was an old card system where you used to have to scribe down every time you spoke to somebody, you know, physically write it down, then refer back to that when you were ringing them up. Now, the ability to be able to communicate via email and to keep in touch with your clients, as well as keep them organised and getting reminders all the time, and that automation has certainly, that's probably the biggest change to day-to-day real estate, you know, when you're out there selling property. I think, and obviously online marketing's been quite effective as well. But yeah, those change, being able to adapt to those. But you do see a lot of things out there that you look at and you go, I have actually criticised a lot of technology coming through because it's just fluff, and been proven that it is. So, you know, you need to be able to dig through that, wade through it, and find the things that work for you. I always go back to the fact we never sold any less real estate when we didn't have computers and we didn't have mobile phones and we didn't have all the technology that's out there. The thing about it is that we were more effective with the ways that we would communicate in those days, and there was less expectation of the client. So whereas now the client is so informed because they have that stuff at their fingertips, so we need to be on trend as well.
Yep. Okay. And with your 10 years with Raine Horne Darwin, you've obviously gone from the Stuart Highway to now we're in the Avenue. We've had however many staff and all that sort of stuff. Yep. Favourite memory of Raine Horne Darwin thus far?
There's so many of them. When you look back to it, I think coming up here and probably opening taking over our first company that we did, and opening our first office. That initiation of expansion for us in the Northern Territory, that was extremely exciting, and that was the thing that paved the way to move us forward from being an office that had 150 to 200 managements and had and we're turning over maybe 50 sales a year to where we are today, where we're up over 1,000 managements, comfortably over 1,000 managements. Probably the biggest company in the Northern Territory when you look at a combination of all the things that we do. So that would probably be about the most exciting. That was the thing. It's like the first time you do those things is when you get the adrenaline rush, and then afterwards when you do the same thing again and again, even if it's bigger, it's not so much excitement. It's like the first push bike you got, and that's where the excitement comes from.
Okay, given I'm Territory Darwin born and bred, having someone come up from south, everybody's a bit dubious, but considering you've lasted 10 years, you could almost be considered a Territorian.
Yeah, so I haven't shot a buffalo, or I haven't caught a barramundi, so there's still a few things that I haven't done in the Territory, but I think that there is other criteria that people look at, and that's the amount of years that you've been here. I think I'm approaching it, but thanks for the 10 years of counting me as a Territorian.
Well, in 10 years you've got a couple of properties, you're now married and got a new baby girl.
Well, she's a Territorian.
She's a Territorian.
Yeah.
You're almost there.
I must be pretty close.
Yeah.
Must be pretty close.
Thank you for joining us on the couch as a guest this time.
Thank you.
And we'll chat to everybody next time you see us on the vlog.
Excellent. Catch you soon, guys.